Welcome to Module P, which is the input data for the production constraints module. What we're essentially doing here is quantifying the impact of each production constraint based on the crops that we're talking about. So for reference, we can do up to 8 crops that will be analyzed, and we've nominated them from our filter where we've said, in this case, we're doing wheat in Rabi, rice in Rabi, maize in Rabi, and maize in Kharif. So when we come back to this P module, those are the 4 crops that we are analyzing for. You'll see that the bottom 4 are then empty. The first part of this module is around thresholds. So you may have a particular data set that has already looked at production constraints in your production domain, and you might want to use that data. That data may use different categories than what is proposed here. So at the moment, what we're trying to do is say, in the example of wheat in Rabi season. So we know that from our module 1, wheat in Rabi season is 6 million hectares here, because this unit is 1,000 hectares. So there's 6 million hectares of wheat in Rabi season. What we want to know is we've got these production constraints. So for that 6 million hectares of wheat in Rabi season, how much is affected by runoff and soil erosion? So in this case, we say 70% is not affected, which means 30% of that 6 million hectare is affected by runoff and soil erosion. What we're then doing is partitioning it into what area is mildly impacted, i.e. is losing between 0 and 10% loss of yield annually, moderately 10 to 20, heavily 20 to 30, and very heavily, which is plus 30% yield loss. Now, if you have a particular threshold and data set, you can adapt what we're doing here. So instead of saying no, we would just use the suggested thresholds as mentioned above. You could say yes. What we then have is to enter the numbers on the thresholds that your data set has. So you'll see before it was 0 to 10, 10 to 20, 20 to 30, and 30 to 100. If we change this to yes, this is just example data, but we would enter, let's say 20%, 25%, and 40%. So now it's 0 to 20, 20 to 25, 25 to 40, and 40 plus. So if you're using a data set that has these particular predefined thresholds, then you can use that. Most of the time, we're not going to have that data, so we're going to have to create that data, and these are the suggested thresholds that we would use. So for each crop, so for rice in Kharif season, we're saying that we know that there is 6.5 million hectares of rice in Kharif season. For each of those 6.5 million hectares, how much is impacted by each of the constraints? The area not impacted is the first one, and then the remaining area needs to be partitioned between mildly, moderately, heavily, and very heavily impacted. What we also want to do as part of this process is to identify areas of uncertainty. So for each combination of crop and constraint, we want to identify how certain we are with the data that we've inputted. Are we certain? Is it an informed estimate, or is there high uncertainty in the data that we're putting in? We also want to identify the data sources. Again, if this is just your best estimates, then just put project team's best estimates. But if you're using a particular data set, then it's really good to know that data for validation purposes. Additionally, any explanation notes go in these green boxes. So what we are then doing is calculating the impact of each of these production constraints on each of these crops. That's what we're doing as part of this Module P, input data.